All right, let's talk about one of the most fascinating minds in tech right now. A guy who was, until pretty recently, one of its quietest innovators. I'm talking about Dylan Field, the co-founder and CEO of Figma.
Okay, just look at this number. $20 billion. With a B. That's the absolutely staggering amount that software giant Adobe offered to buy his company back in 2022. A number like that, it just makes you stop and ask a pretty big question.
How in the world does a college dropout build a company so revolutionary that a titan of the industry, Adobe, is willing to write one of the biggest checks in tech history to get it? Well, that is the incredible story we're going to unpack right now.
So let's get into it. That $20 billion question.
To really understand that $20 billion outcome, we have to go back to the beginning. Because you see, the key to Figma's unbelievable success isn't just in the code. It's rooted in the very unique, almost contradictory mind of its founder. So yeah, let's rewind.
Field's early life was this wild mix of talents and interests that you'd think have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
I mean, check this out. On one side, you have this total math prodigy. We're talking about a kid who mastered algebra by age 6. He even befriended the school janitor, who just happened to be a self-taught math genius. Then, on the complete other side of the spectrum, he was a child actor. Yeah, that's right. He appeared in national commercials for huge brands like Windows XP. And it's that unlikely blend, the deep analytical brain of a math prodigy and the charisma of a performer, that would become his secret weapon.
He grew up in Pen Grove, California, with a teacher and a respiratory therapist for parents. So, a pretty normal working-class home. His passion for tech just ignited when he got into a STEM-focused high school. And he wasn't just tinkering, you know? He was seriously building robots for national competitions and coding websites for friends. This hands-on experience was laying the foundation for everything to come.
So after high school, he gets into Brown University to study computer science. But a traditional path? Nah, that was just not in the cards. And that brings us to the single biggest bet of his early life. The timeline here is just crazy fast. He enrolls at Brown in 2009, but by 2011 he's interning at Flipboard, and that's where he gets a taste of just how messy and challenging collaborative design is in the real world. Just 1 year later, he makes a life-altering move. He accepts a $100,000 grant from the Thiel Fellowship, but there was one huge condition. He had to drop out of college.
And you gotta imagine, this decision was not easy. Think about it. He had to convince his parents, who had sacrificed so much for his Ivy League education, that walking away from it all for a grant and a dream was the right call. You can bet they resisted that idea at first. The personal stakes were just incredibly high.
So he takes the leap. But what came next wasn't instant glory. No, it was a long, quiet, and really difficult period of intense focus. A period we can call the 4 years in the dark.
The vision he and his co-founder Evan Wallace were chasing was totally radical at the time. They got inspired by this new tech called WebGL, and their big idea was to build a powerful design tool that lived completely inside a web browser, kind of like Google Docs, but for design. The goal was to make design collaborative and accessible, not stuck on individual computers.
And this was not an overnight thing. After they moved to San Francisco, they just went dark. They spent 4 grueling years just developing the product. Imagine that, 4 years with no public product, no revenue, just burning through cash while trying to solve a problem that most people thought was impossible to solve in a browser.
And the established design world, deeply skeptical. Competitors and insiders dismissed what they were doing with this pretty memorable insult. They said trying to build design tools in a browser was like designing a camel instead of a horse. You know, some clumsy, awkward thing in a world that already had sleek, powerful desktop apps.
Well, they were wrong. So wrong. When Figma finally launched, it didn't just compete. It completely redefined the rules of the game. So what was this winning formula? It was a revolution, really. All led by one killer idea: real-time collaboration. This solved the absolute nightmare of emailing endless versions of files back and forth. You know the ones. design_final_v3_final_final.sketch. It was awful. Just like Google Docs freed our documents, Figma freed design. Whole teams could finally work together in one file at the same time from any browser. That, plus the accessibility and a passionate community, changed absolutely everything.
And the market? Well, the market responded. Just look at this growth. From a valuation of about $115 million in 2018, it explodes to $10 billion just 3 years later. Then, by the time Adobe came knocking in 2022, that valuation had doubled again to an incredible $20 billion. The camel, as it turns out, had become a unicorn.
And that massive acquisition, it marks the end of one chapter for Dylan Field and the beginning of a whole new one, positioning him as one of the most important new leaders in technology, period.
The deal itself was monumental, $20 billion. Field's own stake was estimated to be worth over $2 billion. And crucially, he would remain CEO of Figma, with the company operating pretty much on its own within Adobe to continue its mission.
His influence now extends way beyond Figma. He's become a really active angel investor, backing other major startups you've probably heard of, like OpenSea and Loom. He's also a big NFT collector, and in 2021, he sold a single CryptoPunk NFT for a cool $7.5 million.
But you know, when you peel back all the layers, the billions of dollars, the business strategy, the crazy journey, you find this one simple, powerful belief. Dylan Field sees programming as the closest thing we have to magic. And it's that sense of wonder, combined with the relentless focus, that turned a wild idea into a $20 billion reality. The only question left is, what magic will he create next?